Hello and welcome to Managing Supply Chain Complexity in Transportation and Logistics. This is a webinar jointly produced by PartnerLink and Systems, and today we're going to show you modern approaches to manage your supply chains more easily and more effectively. I'm David Brennan. I'm the VP of Sales for Systems Limited. Systems Limited is the sales and service partner for PartnerLink here in APAC. And over to Konstantin.
Hi, thank you, David. My name is Konstantin Limbarakis. I'm the VP of Product Marketing here for PartnerLink. I've been in the sourcing and procurement and supply chain space for most of my career in a variety of roles, and we're excited here to talk about some of the emerging technologies that are in the space in supply chain management, and particularly with some of the things that we're doing here in managing logistics and transportation with our platform.
And over to Tom.
Yeah, hi, my name's Tom Smith. I'm the Director of Supply Chain Consulting at PartnerLink and the Principal Consultant for B2B API and EDI strategies at VisionNet Systems. I've been in the EDI space for the past 30 years with some of the world's most recognized brands. I've been deeply involved in the development of EDI standards globally, not only with GS1, but the Book Industry Study Group, the transportation industry, Wallboard, fast-moving consumer goods, apparel, accessories, and so forth. So if there's any questions about EDI when we're done, send them into our team over here at David, and we'll get you an answer. We're confident about our skill and abilities here, so we'll answer you in writing, which is a pretty strong statement about who we are and about our product. Back to you, Konstantin.
Thank you, Tom. And next slide, please, Konstantin.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, so before we go into the details on PartnerLink, I'm going to just introduce briefly Systems. So we are a global systems integrator. We are present in various different countries in the world around Europe and America. And here in APAC too, we have offices in Malaysia, Singapore, and Australia. We are a $600 million company, so we like to say that we're big enough to get things done and small enough to care. We've been around 47 years, and we employ 7,000 plus people in all different skill sets around the world. So we focus in various different industries, and on the next slide, we'll go into that in a little bit more detail. Next slide, please, Konstantin. So our business is divided into practices, as you would expect from a major systems integrator of our size. We have a data and AI practice where we do all things data, AI, machine learning, generative AI. We have various different data science disciplines in that practice. We have a digital practice in which our PartnerLink relationship is placed, and our digital practice focuses on digital transformation, business apps, ERP, CRM. We do application modernization, automation, integration, middleware. Our methods of engagement include professional services projects. They include managed services for supporting technologies that customers implement through us or by themselves. And we engage both on fixed price, fixed outcome, and time and materials basis. We have an automation practice, infrastructure services, so we do a lot of work in the cloud. We are very active in areas like Kubernetes, microservices, modernization, and we've got a NOC and also a SOC for security, managed security services. So these are how our practices are arranged. As I mentioned, today we're going to cover our digital practice, and really just to give the people on this webinar an idea that whilst we are obviously involved in selling and delivering PartnerLink, we also transcend PartnerLink by a very long way so that we can provide customers with an end-to-end vendor relationship regardless of their digital transformation journey and the areas it may touch. So that briefly introduces who we are. I'm now going to hand over to Konstantin, who's going to talk about supply chain challenges and then the PartnerLink solution in more detail. Konstantin, please.
Thank you, David. I really appreciate the opportunity here with our partners Systems Limited and to talk about some of the supply chain challenges in transportation and logistics. And this is something that we've heard quite a bit in the past several years, that supply chain has become, top of mind for so many companies and so many organizations, and particularly those that are either using transportation and logistics as a function within their organization or are providers in the space as either in 3PL or 4PL or involved in the space in as part of their core business. We feel that this is such an important topic to understand. How do you manage these challenges? And one of the things that we always like to do is to take a step back and look at what research is telling us and how that reflects the reality of what we're seeing when we talk to our clients, when we talk to our partners, and be able to share this type of information. One of the resources we often turn to is a company called IDC. It's one of the major analyst firms in the United States. And what they've done is they did a global supply chain survey in 2023. And when they asked transportation and logistics providers some of their top challenges across this global survey, 4 of the things that they found and identified is really that companies are really looking to generate efficiencies to continue to enable their profitability. And again, of course, to try to eliminate waste and offset these increased costs of what we're finding with increased rates of inflation and the cost of managing these operating assets. Another area that they found was also trying to find better ways to facilitate collaboration. Of course, one of the best ways to try to do this is by better using technologies through digital transformation efforts to improve the relationships that you have with your business partners. And it's one of the topics that we're going to talk about quite a bit in the webinar. Another area that we're finding is because of the aging workforce, there is an increased challenge of finding ways of augmenting scarce labor. This is whether through drivers of scheduling and planning or other aspects to become more productive. And in concert with this digital transformation, we're finding that not only globally is this a challenge, but this is something that was highlighted in some research that specifically touched on the Australian New Zealand market, which we're talking to today. And then finally, something that we all have also seen as an increase as part of wider efforts, whether this was called internally efforts with managing diversity, equity, inclusion, or whether this is part of corporate social responsibility, or even in now what we're calling advanced sustainability. This is becoming increasingly a challenge. It's something that people are seeing not only from an investment side, but also for efforts related to improving their bottom line in terms of working with those partners, as well as trying to be more sustainable to react to supply chain disruptions, but also seen as being more responsible globally as part of the supply chain. So some of these things were not coming as a surprise, but one of the things that we found in the research that we really gravitated to as part of PartnerLink and what we do in a technology is understanding what the top 2 priorities were for these people that answered the survey. Well, one of the things that the top 2 responses were is optimizing supply chains to reduce cost. That's something we're going to see time and time again, and I can guarantee you in the next 10 years, costs will always probably be at the top. The question is what are those costs and how are you measuring those, and what are the ways of eliminating those through different means? But the one that we keep seeing, and is something that's really true to our heart here at PartnerLink, is trying to understand the ability to improve visibility across your end-to-end supply chain. How do you know what's going on with your business partners, between buyers and suppliers, with your customers, with the suppliers, with your back-end systems that are all integrating and creating this information highway, which is your supply chain platform and your supply chain infrastructure for making sure things work? And one of the biggest challenges that we find is that there's often the challenge of data. And one of the conclusions that this research found was, and I'm going to read this from the slide, is that improving data quality and accuracy and relevancy provides an objective standpoint And what we're looking for is a single source of truth from which the teams can begin operating from the same playbook, so that we know when we're looking at problems and we're trying to solve challenges, that we know that we're looking at that same data, whether that's within our organization with business to IT, or whether that's the business talking to its business partners, whether that's a supplier or a customer. And so from that playbook, we can pull in the same direction. We can solve problems. We can fix errors. We can make sure transactions are properly flowing. We can know that we can improve and get insights from that data because we have a harmonized, canonical way of looking at those common data points, and be able then to solve those challenges that we are facing in this ever-increasing complexity in supply chains. That way, we're not kind of sacrifice on the service, and we're going to continue improving our ability to offer services to our customers, but also be able to better improve how we're managing our supply chain. So with that, based on the global sense of what we found in the survey, we found that there's some commonalities then, and we bring this down and hone this in to the Australian, New Zealand market and understand, are there some commonalities here across these global supply chains? Well, one data point that my colleague Tom and I found that was very interesting is taking a look at one aspect of the data point. And this was specifically related to the 3PL market. As economies are growing around the world and recovering from COVID, we're going to continue seeing the improvements and the necessity to fix infrastructure, to get logistics and transportation back in play, whether this is internal, domestic within your country, or as part of import-export requirements. And when you look at a country like Australia, of course, you're an island nation. And when you have a reliance of almost 22% of your exports on as part of your GDP, that is a huge requirement and huge task for supply chain providers and organizations and companies trying to manage with those trading partners overseas as well as internally. And we look at the size here of the 3PL market. Once the traffic comes through, we can see that growth is expected to reach 29.72 billion Australian dollars by 2028, and at a compound annual growth rate of 5%. So as we're expanding, as you're changing reshoring, or if you're looking at different countries and adjusting from trade from places like China to other places in Southeast Asia, and as we're managing these complex supply chains within our own country, how do we do better to manage those challenges? So one of the things that we found in this study that was done by Prological, which is done with both Australian and New Zealand survey takers, 30% of these were transportation and 25% were focused in manufacturing. And this is around a sample size of over 200 respondents. And what we found in 2023 is that the top 5 challenges that organizations saw was the staff shortages as number one. And as you can recall from that previous slide that I shared on the global survey, that was one really big issue, is the staff shortages. Well, in Australia, a country the size of 26 million people roughly, that is a big challenge in trying to support that on a digital basis. How do you make sure that you're able to manage those supply chains as you're growing, based on that statistic that I shared before, and continuing to help mitigate that? Well, it's going to be through digitization, through digital transformation. But also you're facing rising consumer demand. That in 2023, we saw increased concerns over geopolitical issues, the Suez, the blockage, issues going on in Taiwan. We saw the challenge in Russia, Ukraine, the crisis there, and now into 2024, we're seeing these things again in places like in the Red Sea. So as these top 5 challenges in 2023 came across, they also saw there's a continuing ongoing lack of digital skills and an end-to-end visibility challenge. The bottom 5 were, again, around the MHE equipment, looking at things like property space, de-risking supply chains, container shortages, and supplier relationships. Into 2024, even though we're early on, what was really interesting is that many of those top 5 challenges remain. The staff shortage seems to be ever present. The rising consumer demand is being expected, and lack of digital skills resounds. So these are types of things that you can improve internally within your organization to say, how do we do this by better investing in technologies that are going to help us manage those supply chain transactions? And as we can see, as we get into the bottom 5 here in 2024, it's still early going. Things like de-risking supply chain and geopolitical tensions may have eased off, but as we all know, these things can change on a dime because of things happening in a rapid pace, and those things also have to reflect your ability to be resilient in your supply chain, leveraging the supply chain technologies that are helping you manage those processes operationally and also giving you the visibility in order to be able to react much quicker. So these are just some data points that, again, are very helpful, that gives us some insights into what's unique. The last thing we're going to share as part of some of these statistics is really this measure of visibility across supply chain. Again, we saw that that was one of the top priorities globally, but it also still reflected in the data that we can see here in this statistic. And what we can see here is many organizations that responded to the survey noted that they have most visibility, meaning that they can feel like they have a good sense of their visibility. This is whether it was from a business perspective, the B2B perspective, or through a B2C perspective. And some even said that they had full end-to-end visibility. But what we're seeing here is that still there is a large percentage of organizations that aren't comfortable there in understanding what is going on in my supply chain. Maybe they are much smaller companies compared to the larger enterprises that have the funds to invest in those technologies. This is part of the reason why we feel that collaboration, one of those big priorities, is so important, to be able to have companies work with their business partners across the way so that they can also leverage those technologies to improve their ability to collaborate and then also to remain to be resilient in their own right. So with that, what we'd like to do is talk then a little bit about PartnerLink. Well, who is PartnerLink? PartnerLink, as a partner of Systems Limited, is a platform that has really been designed to manage supply chains, different types of industries, but in particular have a real sweet spot in the transportation and logistics space. So as an organization, one of the main things that we really look to do is to stand out as a provider in the space that manages as a platform areas like digital connectivity, which is where we really start from a solution standpoint, is being able to enable organizations to connect to their business partners. That means using technologies like EDI or APIs to make sure that we are connecting to the infrastructures that are connecting to their business partners. But this also means connectivity on the back end. And as Tom Smith, my colleague, is going to share with you, it means that you need to connect to warehouse management systems, to transportation management systems, to ERP systems. We know that through the world of mergers and acquisitions and compression in markets, sometimes things change very rapidly. And the ability to have the connectivity and being able to do that in a rapid, accurate, and resilient way is very important to establishing that baseline. And once you establish that connectivity, then you're able to get that end-to-end visibility and understanding what's going on in that information highway, and then being able to apply technologies like AI and advanced solution sets to create decision and use decision intelligence to do things like better planning and better forecasting. So as a platform, these are the things that we really focus on, and we try to help organizations do that with the technology. So as a unified platform, we were born as a service, a technology and business consulting company from a company called VisionNet, which is affiliated with Systems. We specialize, as I mentioned earlier, in B2B EDI, API, and enterprise technologies that also then manage data intelligence. We all, as practitioners of our technology, have over 25 years experience as part of our senior leadership team, and have quite a bit of experience in engineering, building, and servicing our customers. And we're going to show you some samples and different types of examples of those customers. But as supply chain professionals, it's very important for us to understand what those challenges are, part and parcel some of the things that I'd shared with you that we hear from our customers, And those are then also being demonstrated by some of these surveys that we shared with you today. And this is important to have as a backdrop. So when we get into some of the finer details about what our platform does and the types of customers we manage, it'll give you a better perspective of what's possible, how we can enable organizations in logistics and transportation to get that visibility that they're eager for and improve those supply chain networks. Some of the things that we can share here too is just some of the success stories that we have. And we focus in a number of geographies in both North America and EMEA, as well as in APAC, and even in Australia, where we have one of our customers represented here. And because of the different technology aspects within the different verticals, we're able to cater often to the retail CPG market, fashion market, the lifestyle market, other technology markets. But logistics and transportation is something that's really core and at the center of everything that we do because of the fact of how important that is in the supply chain fabric. With that, we can also then see that we also often look at the conversation around what is an ecosystem? What are we trying to go? What is our North Star whenever we talk to our clients and prospects of what they're trying to achieve? Of course, one of the main things we always like to say is try to reimagine your digital supply chain with frictionless connectivity, end-to-end visibility, and control. And this is a demonstration of what a perfect ecosystem looks like. And Tom, why don't we go ahead and share your thoughts on this as we begin to move into talking a little bit more about the PartnerLink solution.
Sure, sure. This is a classic example of a network, and this is not our network. We're not saying, come to our network, we'll take care of everything. Just the opposite. What we're saying is from a implementation, from an integration perspective, something that we're very strong with the folks at Systems, Envision and PartnerLink. We bring the network to you. So this is your ecosystem. And that's why we want to say reimagine your digital supply chain, because we put the client at the center of their own ecosystem, which in our view is where they belong. And it's our role as integrators, as system builders, to bring those e-commerce tools, those shipment tools, those supplier tools, the distributor tools, your transportation management systems into that core business, right? So if you've ever done a major enterprise upgrade, and who hasn't, right? You get to that point where the first place they want to start is the financial systems, which makes perfect sense. You start at the center and you work your way outward. Same thing with the way PartnerLink operates. We understand that there's multiple tiers of enterprise level systems, right? TMS, WMS, ERP. There's multiple sales channels or purchasing channels or procurement channels that you're involved with, even, no matter what part of the space you take up, especially in the transportation space. All your customers don't come down the same path. They come down various paths. Sometimes it's a direct relationship. Sometimes it's an indirect relationship. But either way, we want to be able to help you funnel those relationships and those transactions through to the core of your business, where you can see them, integrate with them, and react to them, right? So that gives you that whole idea of connectivity, visibility, and decision intelligence. Does that make sense, Constantine?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Tom. So why don't we go ahead now and take a deeper dive look into the PartnerLink platform, some of the components of what that looks like. And then Tom's going to explain to us a little bit more about what those connection points look like. What are all the things that we're trying to enable to establish that baseline connectivity that allows then the organizations to get the visibility and control that we're talking about? So Tom, I'm going to leave this off to you.
Sure. So you can go ahead and you want to go forward to that next slide. I think we can pick it up right there. Yeah, perfect. So this is exactly what I was talking about. So from a PartnerLink perspective, we are all on our own digital journey, right? So there's a digital connectivity infrastructure. And if you're like most businesses, you're trying to think about modern visibility and operationalizing intelligent decisions, being able to see what's going on, and predictability and advanced analytics and all those fun things, predictions and trends, working your way back through smart visibility, operational visibility. So this is a journey that all of us go through, and no matter what our professional lives or our business profession. So we start out with a digital infrastructure and we work our way out to really smart stuff, right? That's the plan. But it really breaks out into three different categories, right? Connectivity, visibility, and decision intelligence. Without those three pieces of the puzzle, you're going to have a hard time. So if you think about, an analytics platform. Somebody wants to say, hey, we're doing an analytics platform. It's on the blockchain, right? Or some, fancy new technology that's out there. You know that there's a path to get there, but you don't know quite what that path is. Well, that path really is through a product like PartnerLink. And what we do with PartnerLink is we help you work on your digital infrastructure with our data products, including things like control towers and digital twins. And that gets you to a point where you can start thinking about integrated planning. What's your future look like? What do I do when something happens today? What's that outcome look like? How can I plan for that? And we bring that in a unified user experience. So when you move down further on the page to the bottom part, we have different studios that are included with the PartnerLink product. So this is not a thing of we're hoping to do this, we're looking to do this. We are doing this today in real time. PartnerLink was begat out of a cloud environment, so it's always been cloud ready. It wasn't built through acquisitions. So we have Connectivity Studio, it's part and parcel to the platform. Planning Studio, where you can plan for such future events. Analytics Studio, where you can just look at your data. Machine language, application studios. So this is a full-blown tool set that you can use with its own integration fabric and its own data fabric, if that makes sense. Constantine, can you maybe go ahead to the next slide? Now, what we did, and we were very lucky to be able to do this, when we set down the path to build PartnerLink, and this is going back about 6 years ago now, we decided on 3 things, 3 key tenets that would hold this platform together. Number 1, making it easy. It has to be easy to use and easy to understand. Number 2, keeping it simple. It has to be easy to translate. You can't grow your business if you're constantly training and retraining the same people. And the third part is putting everything in one place. We found that to be mission critical. You can't go out and experience a platform and then be told later, oh, that's different. You have to add that feature. It's not so with PartnerLink. These features are all built into the platform. So we started, like most B2B API, A2A platforms, with a simple transformation and message processing. And that's really where we departed our peers in the industry. What we built then was what we call a common processing workflow. Now, the common processing workflow is really simple in its explanation. It works together with transformation engine and message processing to bring transactions into and out of your core system. And by doing that way, you can click it again, Constantine, we're able to apply things like business rules, alerts, and notifications to that process, even automate the setup and configuration process. This is something that takes forever if you're integrating today, one by one, trading partner, one at a time, integration by integration, transaction by transaction. It takes forever. We've eliminated that because we've centralized that communication system. Now, that whole communication system relies on our enterprise integration framework, which connects to more than 77 upstream or downstream, depends on your direction, enterprise level systems. So out of the box, that means if you're on SAP today and you're going to SAP version, for HANA in the future, you can do that with PartnerLink. If you're thinking about your current TMS and you want to go to the latest version of the TMS, you can operate that way with PartnerLink because we can connect to both of them simultaneously. One more click, Constantine. That'll get us to the next part. If you are on the retail side and you have marketplaces and commerce platforms, you can bring those channels in as well. All these things flow through our own enterprise integration framework with our own microservices and APIs and handling queues through the common processing workflow and into and out of your core systems. And the important thing here is the same way every time. So you're not taxed with fixing transactions as they come in and trying to make that work. Now, how we were able to do that was through our canonical data model. Yeah, that's okay, Constantine, you can hit it. Our canonical data model has what we like to refer to as a global understanding of the most used transactions on Earth. There's about 500 of them. We started out with 323. We expanded it to 500. And we've taken those transactions from basic standards industries like X12, GS1 XML, EAN, COM, Tradecoms. And we've put them together so that we have one understanding of all of them. So for us, it doesn't matter what transaction set your customer is using. If they're using customer proprietary files, no matter what, a purchase order, for example, is pretty much going to look the same in terms of the content that it's carrying. And by bringing into the common data model, right, the canonical data model, we're able to process transactions much more quickly into the common processing workflow, and thereby create connections to your ecosystem on your behalf, whether it's a factory or a customer or consumer or a transportation network or a carrier partner or a 3PL. It doesn't really matter who that other endpoint is. We've got you covered because we understand what those transactions look like. Make sense, Constantine? So by the number, what this means is that partner setup velocity goes up 30 to 500%. Implementation speed happens that much more quickly. And what you end up with is a very quick efficiency gain in your business. If it takes you forever to bring your new partner online, if you think about a new product or a new carrier partner or a new product, bringing those into the fray, into the business, if you can't do that this week, this month, this quarter, then you've got a real problem heading into 2024. And that's what we found out in COVID, right? So we weren't ready to move forward with our supply chains. We were kind of happy the way they were. COVID hits. Now we're scrambling. We're still not ready coming out of COVID now. And we're starting to think, well, we're never going to let that happen again. What are we going to do? Well, we've got to find a better way to do this. And we've got to find a better way to bring on new partners much more quickly. And that's really what PartnerLink brings to the table. Go ahead, Constantine, you can hit the next one. And that brings us to some live business examples. Give you an idea, Werner Transportation came to us, and in Australia, I don't expect you guys to know a whole lot about Werner, but Werner is the 5th largest carrier in North America. Now, what that means is Werner had it all together. They knew what they were doing. When we met the folks at Werner, they said they had 2 legacy EDI B2B systems. And I thought that was kind of interesting. And I asked them, I said, well, why 2? Is this, truckload LTL kind of thing? And they said, no. 5 years ago, we bought a new system from IBM Sterling, and we're still transitioning. And I kind of said, that's a long time, isn't it? And they said, yeah, it really is. And I thought so. And, it turns out that, excuse me, in 5 years, they had only moved 20% through the migration. And that's just crazy. And we said, well, our business process is different, and it's different in a big way. Number one, we go live typically in 8 weeks with 2 to 3 partners, your entire transaction template. So if it's order to cash, if it's PO to payment, if it's transportation messages, if it's 3PL messages, landing those transactions, it's a landed product, by the way. PartnerLink is a cloud-based landed product. So it comes installed. So it's, engine running, keys in ignition, doors open, ready to go. We connect you with your first 2 to 3 partners. And that's followed by a couple of weeks, 2 weeks of hypercare as we go live. And in hypercare, what we do is we set out to say, this is a transition period from integration to support, should you need support. And it's not required, by the way. This is that integration period to transition over. We explained this to Werner, and they kind of laughed. They said, well, IBM's been out of 5 years. How do you guys get this thing done? And what are we talking about, 12 weeks? And I said, yeah, it's 12 weeks. And they said, cool, let's do it. So we did that. We went live in 8 weeks, just as promised. We then onboarded 700 trading partners in less than 4 months. That's about 100 trading partners a week. We then onboarded close to 1,200 more trading partners in a total of 6 months, including all their transactions in all their various incarnations. So Werner was operational within 6 months, a place where they had started down the road with another partner 5 years earlier. They were astounded. And when we went back for the after meeting, after we went live, they were all smiles. And I questioned them. I questioned the executive team. I said, you guys seem really happy today, compared to before. What has changed? And they said, I said, I have to be honest with you. In our business in transportation, we get load tenders. If we don't act on that load tender, if we don't accept it, we miss the deal. If we miss the deal, we miss the revenue targets. We later found out that when we spoke to them originally, they were telling us they were doing somewhere around, 15 million transactions a month. Today, they're doing about 60 million transactions a month. What's actually happened is they actually see more of these load tenders. They're able to act on more of these load tenders. We've automated those processes so they can auto accept from customers in different geographies in order to get that load into their system and get that, get to work. And their revenue has doubled. And that's a huge undertaking for them. They're very happy with it. You want to go to the next slide, Constantine? Speedy similar story, not quite as many trading partners. They had 1,200, I think, altogether. We onboarded all of them within a very short period of time. They are a US and Canada-based company, so they are cross-border, they're multinational integrations, and they were extremely satisfied. What they said to us were things like, you completely onboarded, and taken on a very valuable segment of our business. And this was just a small acquisition they had made. And that was part of their strategy, was to grow through acquisition. And in order to bring these businesses to rely on the core business, and we had to do it very quickly. And that's what we do. So it's cross-border logistics and transportation. Bison's the next one. If we're talking strictly transportation, if you want to move that ahead, Constantine, that would be great. Bison, the next slide, is on a system called Mercury Gate. Can you click forward? We stuck?
I think we're stuck here. Let me see.
Wait, hold on. Let me see. Oh, nope, you got it. Yep.
Moving now.
There it is. So the interesting story behind Bison is the folks at Bison admittedly said, we have the oldest version of EDI known to man. We've been doing this for 30 plus years. We bought a system, we never changed it. And we've been struggling with our AS400 and our mainframe to make these connections over years and years. Our workforce is getting old. They want to retire. We'd like to have them retire. They've done their time. They should be able to go home to their families now. So they put their system in 1982, so 40 years. And what we did for them was complete modernization. We left the AS400 in place. They're upgrading to newer systems, Mercury Gate being one of them, but they still had to continue to operate most of their business out of their core system. With PartnerLink, we're able to connect to both of those systems, the new modern Mercury Gate system, the E2 Open, which is a client request, and their 1982 AS400 based legacy EDI system as well, in order to pull all that together. So it was a multi-phased approach to get them off of the old system and into the new network. 96 map, 48 partners, 8-week delivery, just like we said. What problems do we find downstream? There's always one. So we set out after that to find them and solve them. We have a really great relationship with the folks at Bison. They're very happy. They're also in a growth position. They've been acquiring and keeping these other businesses running as a side business. So their core business was suffering because they were unable to integrate these acquisitions over the years. So they had dozens of them that were left to be on their own for many years. And now it's time to consolidate these businesses for greater efficiencies, especially coming out of things like COVID, where the workforce is different. So your workforce strategy has to be different. It was fine leaving these businesses in place to operate as independent units, but now for Bison, it's a consolidation effort, and we see that more and more often. Constantine, you want to take it from here?
Yeah, thank you so much, Tom, for sharing some of the examples of these case studies that we've done in other places of the world, in North America in particular. And I think what's important here is to figure out, well, how do we connect this back to you folks here in Australia? And so some of our concluding thoughts here are really around the challenge of global disruption, having forced Australian transportation logistics to really adopt new strategies. In some ways, again, as an island nation, as we mentioned before, you guys are very unique in your challenge and how you're trying to make this changes. So increasing your resilience of your supply chain and diversifying suppliers and building redundancy into national networks is critical. But as I mentioned before, the international aspect of that is also just as important. So for companies looking to improve performance, the answer here is that there is no silver bullet. There's no one thing that's going to solve everything. Again, some of these are people challenges. Some of these are process challenges. Some of these are regulatory challenges that I didn't even mention in the earlier opening dialogue. But it's important to understand that a solution that puts business back on track quickly and easily, and I think Tom opined on that, is making it as easy as possible as part of your core infrastructure and operation. that is something you're going to need to look to make sure you're on par. And even some of the largest organizations that we see are often using some really old legacy technologies. Oftentimes we'll work with companies that are just merging or acquiring or trying to work in very different levels of maturity of technology infrastructure. And how do you do that to make sure that you're communicating with all these? And in, again, many cases, some of these are very small to medium-sized businesses that don't have the deep pockets to invest in some of these real expensive technologies. So making it easy for them to work with you with the platform is really important. So I guess in the last component here is, as you look to become more advanced, you need to look on your digital transformation journey and try to find a path that improves your digital connectivity and operational visibility to ensure, again, that supply chain resilience and ability to continue growing and contributing to your revenue as you go over time. So with that, those are just some of our concluding thoughts. And we thought maybe what we could do is open up to some questions here and give some answers to the folks that would be interested in understanding a little bit more. So I think we're going to open up to all our panelists here now, including David and Tom, and see if you could ask some questions of us, David, and see if we can be helpful.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that very informative presentation. I loved your case studies and the way that, you know, PartnerLink, I think it's like the oil in the machine to double revenue and to you know, just improve visibility and velocity and bottom line. So we did get some questions from the people who registered to receive this webinar. So we had a question, how quickly can I onboard a business partner on PartnerLink? So that was one of the questions that we had.
Sure. You want me to take this one, Constantine?
Yeah, go ahead, please, Tom.
Yeah, that's really the interesting question, right? How fast? Minutes. So where it literally takes people days, weeks, and months, we've got it down to minutes. For example, you can set up an AS2 connection yourself in a few seconds. You don't need our support to do it. In fact, support isn't even required. You know, what we tend to offer is the platform. It's a hosted cloud platform, integration to get you started. And then, you know, services and support really is something that people need to transition if they want to support themselves. Conversely, if you want us to do it, not a problem. We'll teach your people how to do it. They can add that connection themselves. It takes a few seconds. So from there, it gets even easier because the maps are automated, the mapping is built in, all that stuff's already landed for your integration. So if it's order to cash, PO to payment, if it's 3PL, if it's strictly transportation transactions, not a problem, minutes.
And you mentioned that you include training. How long roughly would it take to train a user to be proficient on doing this?
About a day. It's not even a day's long training. In fact, it's you know, throughout the transition process. So throughout the course of 8 weeks, we're preparing you to transition. We're showing you what's going on in these screens in real time. So as we're configuring, we're showing you how that works. And then once we roll it over and we say, okay, you're going live, we're there with you. As I mentioned, we have a hypercare period that lasts 2 weeks. So your integration team is present and your support team. So they already know you, you're already on first name basis, and you are going to work through that. We don't want to leave you high and dry, right? So that's the first part. The second part of that is the support button. So within PartnerLink, there's a support button. If you don't know how to do something, you can basically ask us, and it'll tell you how to create, like, and I'll just use the AS2 example. You want to create an AS2 connection, you type in AS2 in the search bar, it'll tell you how to set up a new AS2 partner. And the third part of that is, like, most support systems work off of emails and phone calls, and you don't even have to do that with PartnerLink. If you've got a problem and it's in real time, you can click that support button, the help button, and you can create a ticket in our system. So you don't even have there's no lag time. Like, you have a lag time, you send an email, somebody's got to answer it or look at it, respond back to you. We've all been there, right?
Mm.
The story when we were getting on the call, story of my life, right? I went to the office today and look what happened, right? My machine stopped working. But you're already in the help system. They know who you are as a user, and they know where you are. They know what screen you are, for Pete's sake. So, they already have so much information of where you are, where your problem is. By the time the phone rings or you get a ping on Teams or whatever, you're like, oh, cool. Yeah, well, I'm still here and let's get this done. And it's not a problem.
Thank you. Another couple of questions. This time from I guess one of the more technically minded members of our audience. What are the most connections your platform can manage daily or weekly, and what platforms can your solution be hosted on?
Well, the connections are virtually unlimited. So it is a cloud-based solution. So unlike a local solution, right? Local solutions, you have to process first in, first out. So you're processing transactions in an orderly fashion. Not so with cloud technologies. With cloud technologies, every transaction becomes its own process. So, if I have 100 purchase orders come in, or 100 warehouse shipment orders, or 3PL shipment orders come in, I usually have to wait today, right? In most systems, I have to wait for the first one, the second one, the third one to process until I get to that last one. And that might take minutes to hours, depending on how fast the processing speeds are. With cloud computing, it's a whole different animal. They all process simultaneously, each of them grabbing what processing power it needs to process. And then from there, every step of the process does the same thing. So I'm reading a document, I'm transcribing the document, I'm putting it into something the downstream system can consume, I'm storing it, I'm passing it along, I'm waiting for a response. These are all separate computes. So the speed and the energy required is much greater, but it's a much more efficient use of technology because now I'm only using it for a microsecond, right?
Yeah, and also in terms of platforms, for those that are interested, it is natively developed on Microsoft Azure.
Okay.
And we also support Google Cloud, and we are moving towards the AW and Amazon model into the future. So again, trying to be very supportive of all the different infrastructures that modern enterprises are using today, and have that flexibility because of the way we were designed natively in the cloud to begin with from our origins. So that's an important aspect to our platform, unlike some other solutions that have had different histories. We started in the cloud, so we're native
Good.
to it.
Right.
Good. Can your platform handle 3PL and 4PL?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It's really, for us, there's not much more to it, just a little bit more in the detail and the hops, right? So yeah, absolutely. In fact, what we're finding now is a lot of our customers, a lot of the newer customers, I should say, have had early systems integrations, and they are now graduating. They're graduating to their second generation, right? Their first generation was, I have a new product, I have a web store. Oh heck, I've got to figure out how to deliver this product. They go out to an Amazon or another third party, and then before you know it, they're 3 or 4 systems deep, and the business is taken off. And now they've got to get serious about their business. They're no longer a sock manufacturer or a razor company that just a startup. They're now a true business, and they're ready to graduate. And that's when they look at a product like PartnerLink, they go, "Wow, we didn't even know you were out there," which is fine because that's not expected either. So we show them what we have, we show them the difference and how we're able to make those connections happen for them much more quickly and efficiency. And they can appreciate it, I think, a little more than the old school guys like me, because they're actually working with multiple systems simultaneously. And so when they're actually engaging with us, they're like, "Hey, well, it's already here." Yeah, well, that's how it works. Yeah, we'll simultaneously send that transaction downstream to 2 different points, which is a big thrill for them. They're used to, this timely process where they had to get manually engaged, and this all happens in the background automatically, and it's a whole different environment, a whole different feel to their business.
Thank you, Tom. We did have a couple more questions, actually. One of them was one of our audience was questioning, obviously, PartnerLink hails from the US. Australia may have different requirements in terms of a heavier reliance on air and ocean freight than maybe you have in America. How have you adapted the PartnerLink solution to the local market requirements?
Yeah, well, for starters, we have a built-in tool to PartnerLink. So if you're moving containers, and I imagine you do a lot of that, if you're moving containers, the only thing we need from your enterprise system is that container ID. So we have connections to about 98% of the world's ocean freight. So without you clicking anything, PartnerLink can reach into your enterprise automatically, grab that container ID, source where it's coming from, where it's at, and update your status automatically into your enterprise level system. So that is the depth of and the breadth of the capability in-house today in production.
Fantastic. I guess one of the most impressive things about PartnerLink, and another question we had, it has this enormous library or database of trading partners that customers can save time by reusing rather than setting up from scratch, obviously subject to their own internal approvals and everything else. I'm just wondering again, and this is an Australian related question, how many of these trading partners in your database are Australia based or have Australian locations?
Well, I can tell you there's about 65,000 the last time I looked, unique
Wow.
transaction relationship in our in-house catalog. There are hundreds of them that I know of in Australia today. So they exist. To what level, for which businesses, and to what extent any of your local customers would have or need, I could be hard to tell. We'd have to look at them on a one-to-one case-by-case basis. But we do have a commitment to our client base, and that is, if we don't have a connection, if you have a locally grown enterprise level system, or you have a local client, that's all included. There's no extra charge for bringing in a trading partner we never heard of. So, when it comes to that initial integration, that landing, so configuring the product for your clients, that's all built into the price. So there's nothing extra because it's new to us. It doesn't matter to us. Our commitment is to our entire client base. So we'll bring those clients, those customers of yours in at our own expense. It doesn't cost anything extra. It's built into the process.
And I think that slide of the ecosystem kind of brings this home because of the fact that things are constantly evolving and you're trying to make sure that you fit into what you need. So sometimes you're a part of somebody else's supply network. Sometimes you're trying to get others to come onto yours. So we try to make that, again, as flexible as possible, and having those unique capabilities is something that's really important.
Okay, so thank you very much for that. That's all the questions we had for now, although I will be sharing my contact details, and people can any questions just email or call me. I'm based here in Sydney, so let's move on now to the next slide then.
Yeah, well, what we'd like to do is here as we conclude the webinar, David and Thomas, we'd like to thank everybody for participating and joining and being interested in this topic. Again, we try to emulate ourselves as a supply chain platform that, like I iterated before, that redefines this connectivity, end-to-end visibility, and decision intelligence, and really trying to, again, enable this real-time decision making that's so critical for making the right decisions and doing this on this cloud infrastructure that we talked about. So if there's any interest, we definitely have this presence in these different locations, but also are working very closely in the Australian market with our partners here at Systems. So I guess here is something that also David can conclude on here for us.
Thank you very much. So yes, this is our Sydney office contact details. Please feel free. You've got my contact details. Just pick up the phone or email me. I'll be very happy to arrange discussions with any of the people watching this webinar, and Constantine and Thomas, so we can explore your requirements and provide you with something very tailored to your needs. And as I said, PartnerLink is something that we is already selling here in Australia. We've got a lot of interest coming up as well. So just be part of the supply chain revolution and make your lives easier, and we're here to help. So I'll say a very warm thank you, Konstantin and Thomas, for your time today, and it's been a pleasure. I've learned a lot, and I'm sure all the people watching this webinar have too. So we'll close the webinar now, and once again, thank you everybody for joining. Really appreciated your giving us your valuable time today, and please get in touch. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.